3 spine-chilling true tales of haunted cabins in the woods. Discover the sinister secrets exposed. Sarah drove down the winding road, trees looming like silent sentinels. The weight of the last few months pressed down on her chest. Losing Danny had left her hollow. She glanced back at Lily and Jake, their wide eyes reflecting the flickering sunlight filtering through the branches. Maybe this weekend would serve as a healing balm, a way to shake off the numbness. The cabin awaited them, nestled deep in the woods, isolated from the suffocating reminders of their grief. Yet, something lingered in the air, a palpable tension that made her skin prickle. As they arrived, the cabin's wooden facade seemed to absorb the light, casting an eerie shadow over their hopeful retreat. It's just a place, Sarah reassured herself. But the bizarre tales she'd heard from town echoed in her mind, the family that vanished without a trace. Was it just folklore or truth lurking in the dark? Soon, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the woods transformed from tranquil to unnerving. They gathered around the campfire, light flickering, shadows twisting around the trees. A sudden hush swept over them. The wind picked up, carrying whispers that brushed against Sarah's ears, words she couldn't quite make out. Yet their urgency echoed in her mind. She shook her head, dismissing the feeling as the result of a tired imagination. "Did you hear that?" Jake whispered, eyes darting into the dark trees. "Just the wind, buddy," she said, though unease tightened her stomach. The hairs on her neck stood on end as she felt a presence lingering just beyond their sight. Suddenly, Jake screamed, his voice piercing the stillness. "Mom! Someone's outside." Heart racing, Sarah rushed inside, adrenaline coursing through her pulse booming in her ears. "It's nothing, Jake. You were dreaming." But inside, she felt the unsettling truth. There was something out there, something waiting. The next morning, the atmosphere hadn't shifted. Enter Mr. Thompson, their neighbor, whose smile never reached his eyes. He stood on the porch, reciting stories of those lost in the woods with a charm that felt off, like a spider weaving its web. Oh, that family, they were never found, just disappeared into thin air. Each word dripped with a sinister undertone. After he left, Sarah dismissed it as small-town gossip. Yet, unexplained noises began again as dusk fell, whispers curling around the cabin, shadows darting between trees. They hovered closer this time, taunting, as if inviting them deeper into the wood's dark embrace. "Let us play a game," Lily suggested, trying to dispel the tension. But Sarah could feel the weight of their isolation crushing. She could sense those eyes watching from the distance, a chill creeping up her spine. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But even her attempts at normalcy crumbled as she caught a glimpse of Mr. Thompson standing just outside the edge of the clearing, eyes fixed intently on them. A chill settled deep in her bones. What did he know? What was hidden in these woods? She forced herself to breathe, but the sense of crushing dread only grew heavier. As the last light of day dimmed and darkness enveloped the cabin, Sarah realized they might be trapped not just by isolation, but by something that had been lying in wait. A shadow flickered by the window, and deep inside, the haunting truth echoed louder than ever. Not everyone leaves the woods alive. The sun rose reluctantly, casting a muted light across the cabin, but the air was thick with foreboding. Sarah lay awake, the remnants of a restless night clawing at her. The whispers hadn't stopped. They lingered like a bad smell, hovering in the corners of her mind. Lily and Jake were still asleep, their innocent faces providing a momentary comfort against the mounting dread. "Just a dream," she muttered to herself, but her voice lacked conviction. Walking quietly, she peeked out the window. The trees stood silent and still, their dark trunks looming like sentinels. But then movement, a flicker beyond the treeline. Something or someone darted out of sight. Her heartbeat quickened. She glanced back at the kids. They looked peaceful, untouched by the terror that gnawed at her. She couldn't wake them now. Not when the world outside felt so ready to implode. With a resolve fueled by instinct rather than logic, Sarah stepped outside, the cool air wrapping around her like a shroud. The forest loomed, thick and oppressive, every rustle of leaves amplifying her anxiety. She needed to know if there was something out there. To protect her children, she had to face the unknown. As she ventured a few feet from the cabin, the sounds of their laughter the night before felt like a distant memory. All that remained was the echoing quiet and the rustle of creatures lurking in the underbrush. "I'll just take a quick look," she assured herself, but the lies slipped from her lips dry and bitter. Her gut twisted, warning her of the danger lurking beyond the fragile veil of branches. "Mom?" Jake's small voice shattered her concentration. She spun around to find him standing at the cabin door, sleepy but aware, eyes wide as saucers. "Where are you going?" "Just checking something, honey. I'll be right back." She forced a smile, hoping to mask her rising panic. At that moment, a low growl rolled through the trees, reverberating under her skin. It wasn't the sound of an animal. It was something darker, something unnatural. "Mom!" Jake shouted. "Let us go inside." But she was rooted to the spot. Her instincts fought between protective mother and the chilling compulsion propelling her forward. "Stay close, okay?" she called over her shoulder, finally stepping deeper into the woods. Each step felt heavier than the last. The forest seemed to close around her, branches bending and creaking as if whispering warnings in a language just out of reach. The low growl became a rumble, shaking her insides. Fear gripped her, but salvation lay ahead. A break in the trees, a clearing not too far, an escape. Maybe even a revelation. And then she saw it. A figure, barely visible, cloaked in shadows, watching. The heartbeat in her ears drowned out the sounds of everything else, drowning her thoughts in pure terror. Its eyes, dark and hollow, locked onto her. An abyss of nothingness that seemed to draw her closer. "Mom!" Jake cried again, now at the edge of the clearing, pulling at her arm. "Please, let us go back." But she couldn't respond. The figure stepped closer, its form distorting, flickering like a faulty light. It reached out, fingers elongated with despair, and Sarah felt a freezing grip of dread wrap around her. In that pulse of frozen time, clarity struck. This wasn't just folklore. It was real. They were not alone in the woods, and whatever lay in wait was hungry for the living. "Run!" she finally screamed, adrenaline surging through her, and together they bolted toward the cabin, the whispers erupting into shouts that ricocheted off the trees. The shadows twisted greedily at their heels, reaching for them, but instinct propelled them on. As they stumbled through the door, slamming it shut behind them, the growls echoed outside, mingling with the frantic pounding of their hearts. Shadows slithered just beyond the windows, a relentless reminder that the nightmare was just beginning. Then came a heavy knock, reverberating through their fragile sanctuary like a death bell. With one last whispered plea to the darkness outside, a voice from the depths said, "You can't hide forever." What had they awakened in the woods? Would fear force them to flee, or would they have to confront the horror waiting at their door? The atmosphere inside the cabin thickened with dread. Sarah pressed her back against the door, every sinew in her body taut with the urgency to protect her children. Jake and Lily stood close, their small forms trembling in the dim light. The shadows outside pulsed and crawled, mirroring the chaos in her mind. Another knock came harder this time. The wood creaked, as if the very structure of their sanctuary feared what lurked beyond. "Mom, I don't like this," Jake whimpered. "I know, sweetie. We'll be okay," she lied, forcing calm into her voice, but terror twisted in her gut. The whispers had taken on a different tone, low and mocking, seeping through the cracks as if the figures outside were laughing at her fear. "Maybe we should call for help," Lily suggested, her voice quivering. Sarah shook her head. "No signal out here. We need to stay quiet." But even as she spoke, the truth sank like lead in her stomach. No one would come. They were isolated, trapped in a cradle of trees hiding something sinister. The knock came again, louder and more insistent. "Let us in, we know you're inside, you shouldn't have come here." The voice was sultry, dripping with an icy chill that froze Sarah's blood. She took a deep breath, struggling to think. "What do we do? What do we do?" She murmured to herself, trying to come up with a plan. As if responding to her desperation, the whispers intensified, echoing around her, growing louder, words mingling with strange, unrecognizable sounds that twisted into chilling laughter. They were coming for them. "I want to go home," Jake cried, tears spilling from his wide eyes. "We're gonna be fine, buddy," Sarah said, her tone more urgent now. "But we can't show fear. We have to be brave, remember what we talked about? We can't let anything in." Something crashed against the back of the cabin, jarring her from her thoughts. The intensity of the moment escalated, and with it, a primal scream ripped through the air, echoing from the depths of the forest. The scream pierced through every inch of the cabin, igniting a raging fire of terror in Sarah's heart. Before she could think to react, the lights flickered, dimming and then plunging them into complete darkness. "Stay together," she said, her voice laced with panic. The cabin was silent except for the sound of their heavy breathing. Sarah grabbed Jake's hand, pulling him close while Lily huddled against her side. They were more than just scared. They were hunted. Then the shadows outside shimmered as if catching fire, stretching into grotesque shapes that danced along the walls. The whispers morphed into haunting promises. "Join us, you will not escape, you will be one with the darkness." Fatigue clawed at Sarah's resolve, but overwhelming fear kept her upright. They had to move. She wouldn't let the darkness take over her family. With a surge of adrenaline, she pulled the kids toward the back window, pushing aside the frayed curtains. "Climb out," she hissed. But just as they made it to the ledge, a shriek pierced the night air, echoing like a banshee's wail. It came from the trees, and she could have sworn she saw fleeting glimpses of figures in the darkness, grotesque and sinister, their gaping mouths stretching into wicked grins. "Mom!" Jake screamed, wide-eyed, the raw panic in his voice pulling another layer of dread over Sarah's heart. "We can't. They're out there." Her breath caught. The cabin was just a temporary prison, and whatever hunted them outside was only biding its time. With no clear path to safety, time was running out. She felt the walls breathe with malevolence, growing closer, suffocating. "Get out," she commanded, urgency fueling her voice. "Now." But just as she stepped forward, the door shook violently, rattling on its hinges. Whatever lay outside was furious, denied entry to its prey. Shadows surged in, swirling like smoke, taunting, promising despair. With a sudden determination, she thrust the kids through the window, but as her feet touched the floor again, the door burst open, flinging wide with a violent force that sent Sarah sprawling backward. The darkness flooded in, hungry, chaotic, alive. It reached for them, wrapping its tendrils around her, pulling her closer, whispering horrible truths in a chorus of malevolence. "Join us," join the darkness. With one last glimpse to her children, horrified and lost, Sarah screamed as she felt herself slipping away, the shadows pulling her into their cold embrace. And then everything went black. But in that void, behind her eyelids, she heard a voice. Another promise. "We will not be forgotten, the chosen will rise." What awaited them beyond the darkness? Would they be forever bound to its sinister embrace? Or was there a path back to the light? Heat surrounded Sarah in the thick, suffocating darkness, yet an icy dread crawled under her skin. She fought to regain her senses, gasping as if she resurfaced from deep water. Where were Jake and Lily? Panic surged within her like a tide, drowning rational thought. "Jake! Lily!" Her throat was raw. Silence answered her, an empty void pressing in. Sudden movements broke the stillness. She could feel it, a rustle, almost playful, something circling her in the dark. The whispers returned, each syllable soaked in malevolence, brushing against her ears like icy fingers. "Look, they're lost just like before. Join us." Fighting back a sob, she stretched her hands out in front of her, feeling for her children, but touched only cold air. "Mommy's here," she called, voice trembling. Suddenly, a faint glow flickered to life, illuminating the cabin's corners. Shadows danced twisted figures, their faces contorted into nightmarish grins. Panic clawed at Sarah's chest as she recognized these were no mere shadows. They were the very darkness, manifesting from her nightmares. They were waiting. Help us, the voices mimicked her children, high and whimpering, a cruel mockery. Sarah felt bile rise in her throat. "Stop it. You leave them alone." The air chilled into a biting gust. A surge of wind thrashed through the room, extinguishing the dim light and plunging her into oppressive blackness again. The whispers picked up, swirling around her head, a maelstrom of chaos. "They are ours as you are ours." As Sarah scrabbled back against the wall, she caught a faint sound, a muffled sob. Her heart raced as she lunged toward it. "Lily! Jake!" Her voice, now shrill with desperation, echoed against the wooden walls. With trembling hands, she followed the sound, her fingers brushing against something warm and soft. She could feel a small body heaving with silent cries. "I'm here, baby," she whimpered, gathering her child in her arms. But where was Jake? Breathing heavily, she pulled back to look at Lily's face, wet with tears. "Where's Jake? Where's Daddy?" Panic washed over her again. "Mommy!" Lily gasped, pointing towards the window, where a pale light seeped through the cracks, illuminating a grotesque tableau. Outside, dark shapes moved, shifting and warping beneath the moonlight. Twisted versions of family and friends stood outside, grinning as though sharing a secret only they knew. "Come, play with us forever and ever," they called, beckoning with clawed hands. "You can't resist, it's so much fun, no." Sarah screamed, fury igniting her voice. With a growl of defiance, she clutched her daughter closer and stood. "I'm not afraid of you." But the shapes pressed closer, hungry for her fear, for that momentary crack in her resolve. Just as she thought she might dash for the window, an icy hand seized her ankle. She stumbled, crashing to the floor, dragging Lily down with her. "Mommy!" Lily shrieked, panic etching deep lines on her face. "Hold on tight," Sarah shouted, gripping her daughter fiercely, trying to pull them both to their feet. Another loud thud echoed from outside. Something powerful was trying to break in. The sound rattled the cabin, testing its strength. "Let us go," Sarah yelled, finding her footing, pulling Lily along. They had to reach the door, had to escape this nightmare. But as they ran, desecrated shadows lunged from the darkness, coiling around her limbs, trying to pull her back. With a primal scream, she tore free, hurling herself and Lily towards the door. "Open," she cried, yanking on the handle, feeling it give under her frantic grip. For a heartbeat, she saw the world outside, a battleground of shadows and moonlight, and Jake, crying in the distance. "Mom! Help me!" Just as hope ignited in her chest, the door splintered open. A surge of malevolent force spilled inside, dragging her and Lily back into the cabin. "No!" she shouted, fighting against it. The darkness enveloped them, promising despair once more. In that chaotic whirl, a moment of clarity struck Sarah. "We will not be one with you," she roared, her voice cutting through the night. But the shadows surged and all went black again. Yet even in the suffocating depths, a new voice echoed, sharp and chilling. "The chosen shall rise, and they will never leave." What awaited Sarah and her children in the abyss? Would they find a way to rise against this darkness, or would they succumb to its sinister clutches? Darkness consumed them, but Sarah fought against the suffocation, grasping Lily tightly. The whispers faded into a menacing silence, but the stillness felt thicker, like a waiting predator poised to strike. She could feel the weight of shadows as they crept around them, tantalizingly close, an oppressive blanket that promised peril. "Lily, stay close," she murmured, her voice trembling but determined. The child nodded, eyes wide and filled with terror. Together, they huddled against the wall, listening intently, expecting an assault at any moment. And then she heard it, a faint sound, rising from the floorboards, thumping, almost rhythmic. It echoed like a heartbeat and pumped dread into her veins. "Mommy, what's that?" Lily whispered, voice breaking. "I don't know, sweetie," Sarah replied, her heart racing. "But we need to be quiet." Suddenly, the thumping stopped. An awful tension filled the air, thick and suffocating. The floor creaked beneath them, announcing the arrival of something monstrous. A shadow rippled across the floor, morphing into a shape that loomed over them, cavernous eyes glinting like shards of obsidian. "Join us," that insidious voice murmured, low and coaxing. It reverberated within her, making her feel sick. The air turned cold, biting into her skin. Sarah trembled, fought the allure to close her eyes and simply succumb. But she wouldn't let this thing, whatever it was, take her family. "Get back. Leave us alone," Sarah shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of sheer terror. The shadows recoiled momentarily, hesitating as if her confidence pierced their veil of darkness. But they quickly surged forward again, lunging, cold fingers stretching towards them with excruciating slowness. Out of instinct, she grabbed Lily and scrambled back towards the far wall. They didn't dare to look away, breath hitching as they faced the malevolent presence. Just then, the walls rattled, and an impossible sound filled the cabin, a chorus of laughter. The twisted faces from before materialized again, their mouths curling into smiles that spoke of unholy joy. "You can't escape. Little one, you'll join us soon enough. Shut up," Sarah screamed, anger igniting her fear. She wouldn't allow them to mock her, wouldn't allow them to consume her children. "I will fight." With newfound rage, she looked down and grabbed the fireplace poker sprawled on the floor. It felt heavy in her hands but reassuring. "We will not be yours," she declared, brandishing the poker, ready to defend Lily, ready to confront whatever horror awaited them. The shadows paused, their laughter dissipating into a low growl, and they pulled back slightly. But Sarah knew this battle wasn't over yet. The thing before her, a monstrous silhouette, pulsating with darkness, reached out one long, glimmering hand, trying to touch her skin. In an instant, she lunged forward, swinging the poker with all her might. It impacted the creature with a resounding thud, momentarily lighting the room with a flash of blinding white. Then, for just a moment, Sarah caught a glimpse of what lay beneath the darkness, faces she recognized. People she had lost, twisted into agonized expressions. "No, not you," Sarah shouted, horrified. But before she could process the faces, shadows enveloped her again, their claws snagging at her clothes, pulling her down as darkness erupted around her like a tempest. "Mommy," Lily wailed. "Hold on to me," Sarah cried, feeling the pull intensify. "We can make it. We have to." But the shadows surged louder, drowning out her voice. They pressed in, crushing the light and hope, and finally, with a deafening roar, it all went black. In that consuming blackness, a terrifying realization hit Sarah like a cold wave. They weren't just fighting to escape. They were fighting to remember. Will they uncover the truth behind the silhouettes, or will shadows drown their memories forever? The darkness felt alive, pulsing around them like a living, breathing entity. For a heartbeat, Sarah swam in the depths of the void, panic clawing at her throat. But then, reality sliced through like a shard of glass, and she gasped for air except there was none. Mommy, Lily's voice trembled, tiny and fragile against the consuming nothingness. It draped over them, heavy and suffocating. Sarah felt for her daughter, grasping the warm hand in the thick gloom, her own pulse racing against the unyielding dark. A sound of scraping, grating noise like nails against wood shattered the silence. It echoed like a whisper of doom, and Sarah's heart thundered in response. She turned, trying to pierce the veil with her eyes, but there was no light here, no comfort. "Stay close, Lily. Just hold tight," she urged, fear creeping into her words. Suddenly, she heard it. A low chuckle, throaty and rich with malice, rolled through the encroaching darkness, jarring Sarah to her core. "You think you can fight us? You will belong to us soon enough." The voice slithered through the air, sticky and invasive, crawling under her skin. "No," Sarah barked, the word escaping her lips like a feral growl. She wouldn't back down. Not now. Not ever. We will not join you. As if snubbed, the atmosphere shivered. The darkness churned and writhed, seething as if it were an entity of its own. Shadows swirled and sprang forth, exploding around them. Faces materialized familiar yet twisted, eyes sunken and desperate, mouths frozen in silent screams. They reached for her, reaching into her soul. Sarah swung the poker wildly, a desperate act against the onslaught. It cut through apparitions of her past, her mother, her childhood friend, faces from memories wrapped in joy, now twisted into grotesque caricatures of sorrow. Stop! I won't let you take her, she cried, swinging again, feeling the energy surging through her, turning despair into resolve. The poker connected again, the sound echoing vibrantly through the void. The shadows shrieked, a cacophony of rage, retreating momentarily. Mommy! It's them! Lily shrieked, her tiny voice almost drowned by the chaos. Stay with me, Sarah shouted. She could feel the weight of dread pushing down. They were slipping between memories, drifting into the realm of despair and confusion. The shadows fed on their fear. She could feel it. Join us. The voices echoed, rising in a twisted harmony. You already belong to us, no. She was screaming now, voice cracking as panic surged like venom in her blood. We're not yours. With a sudden violent jolt, the shadows lunged, unfurling like claws eager to snatch them away. Sarah could feel their icy breath on her skin. She forced her eyes shut, holding onto the poker tighter, willing herself to think through the terror. What were they fighting? The darkness? The memory of pain? Or something deeper? Just remember us, a different voice whispered, one that sounded almost soothing beneath the turmoil. Mommy, hold on. I'm scared, Lily cried, her little voice slicing through the chaos. Remember, Lily. Think of something good. Something we love. Sarah squeezed the small hand harder as she felt the shadows creeping closer, the chill crawling back into her bones. Remember the fireflies, the park, our home. For a moment, a crack of light flickered, momentarily piercing the gloom. But it was fleeting, like a candle's flame threatened by a storm. Panic surged, and Sarah felt the darkness trying to drown her. They were losing their grip on each other. Fight it, she screamed, but they couldn't escape. They were slipping away as darkness closed in again, suffocating. That echoing voice lured her, deeper and deeper into despair. You cannot escape, join us, and in a heartbeat, a realization surged through her. What if the shadows were not just coming for them? What if they were the keys to everything? Mommy! Lily's cry pierced her thoughts. But it was too late. The shadows consumed her, and Sarah understood. They weren't just after memories. They were seeing the truth reflected in her fear. Would they accept it? Or would flesh and spirit be forever trapped in the swirling void below? Something cold brushed against Sarah's cheek, a quickening presence that sent tendrils of revulsion crawling down her spine. She was aware of Lily's trembling hands still briskly grasping hers, but it felt as if they were only shadows of themselves. Their connection was thinning, a tenuous wave threatening to dissolve in a tempest of despair. Listen to me, Lily. Sarah gripped her daughter's hand tighter. We have to channel the light. Think of the fireflies again. Think of the picnic at the park. A sudden gale surged around them, as if responding to her words, howling against the void. The shadows hissed, angry at this flicker of resistance. Just as quickly, they enveloped her, the whispers growing more insistent, each phrase a blade aimed at her heart. Your memories have always been ours. Join us and find solace in the dark. Lily's hand quivered in hers, the warmth receding as dread flooded the air. Sarah felt her heart race faster. She could almost smell the bitterness of decay, pregnant in the shadows, a promise that they wouldn't let go easily. Mommy! Lily wailed again, her voice breaking as if picking up on the sinister chill. Lily! Panic jolted through Sarah like electricity. Close your eyes. Picture the fireflies. She fought against the malignant force clawing at their spirits. But with each moment, every ounce of resolve ebbed away. Just as Sarah began to visualize flickering lights, tiny, innocent sparks darting through the air, her thoughts twisted. What if the fireflies weren't just a trick? What if they could lead the way out? Hold my hand, she yelled, urgency rushing through her words. Trust me. The shadows recoiled slightly, absorbing the radiance of her thought, momentarily slackening their grip. But the darkness wasn't finished. Puffs of cold air lunged like icy fingers at their throats, tightening around her with an unyielding grip. She could barely breathe. Mommy, I can't know. You can. Sarah interjected. You are stronger than them. You will remember. Lily's breath hitched, stifled by tears. I'm scared. In that moment, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of clarity. What had seemed insurmountable was nothing more than hatred veiled as anguish. The dark enveloping them wasn't just a prison, it was scared. Listen, she shouted, her voice breaking through the tumult. They feed on fear, Lily. Don't give in. You must remember love. Images flashed in the void. Fireflies dancing in the warm summer night. Whispers of laughter as they ran through the park. Their secret treehouse where sunbeams filtered through leaves to paint the floor with gold. The shadows surged, twisting around them like a cyclone, anger radiating off its pitch-black edges. You will not escape. Darkness is all you have. Sarah fought through the tide of anguish. No, love is stronger than this. Remember us. Remember the magic. In pursuit of light, she squeezed Lily's fragile hand again, channeling every ounce of her being into it. She felt warmth grow, like a flame igniting within the darkness, pushing against the cold. With a flash, a silver light broke through the void. It flickered brilliantly, illuminating a path winding through the chaos. Look, Sarah shouted. Follow the light. Lily looked up, wide-eyed and glimmering with a fierce determination. Mommy, I see it. The fireflies. But another laugh rippled through the shadows, chilling them to the bone. You think a little light will save you? You belong to the shadows. Forever. No. Sarah shouted again, and she took a step forward, dragging Lily with her. The ground beneath tried to give way, sucking at their feet, but Sarah pushed ahead, the light guiding them, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and hope. But even as they stumbled forward, she felt the darkness shift again, thickening, looming. You think you can leave? You are bound. You will curse the light. Flickering emotions danced on the edges of her consciousness. But she didn't respond. Each step felt like a war against an unseen weight. The path narrowed, and from the corners of her vision, shadows began to solidify again, darker souls. Wrestling for her submission, Sarah clutched Lily tighter, ready to face whatever emerged. She would not go quietly. Together, she breathed. They came around the bend, and the light flickered brighter ahead. But what they encountered next shattered their focus. A shadow stood at the end of the path, its figure shifting and flickering, forming the outline of someone Sarah knew too well, the very specter of her past who had tormented her all her life. Will you let it go or embrace your fate? It hissed, voice twisting, mocking, and then it lunged. Were they going to surrender to the darkness? Or could they fight back against the very essence that clawed at their souls? Darkness roared around them as the shadow lunged, an amorphous mass that absorbed light like a sponge. Sarah was frozen for a heartbeat, panic crashing through her veins, but instinct kicked in. She yanked Lily back, cradling her against her chest. Don't look at it, she yelled, her voice cutting through the eerie silence. We need to run. But where? The path that had once seemed illuminated now spiraled into creeping blackness, the shadows howling like wild animals. Sarah's mind raced. The darkness was alive, breathing and shifting with a mind of its own. The malevolent force coiled around them, pulsing with rage. Mommy, I can't. Lily's voice trembled, a haunting echo in the void. Trust me. Sarah gripped her daughter tighter, her resolve hardening like steel. The specter was here, a grotesque mockery of her fears. It loomed larger, face twisting into 1,000 familiar forms. It was every doubt she had ever whispered to herself. I know you, Sarah, it hissed, voice curling like smoke in the night. You can't escape who you are. No, she shouted, fighting against the suffocating despair that wrapped around her heart. I won't let you have her. In that instant, a fierce clarity struck her. The shadow fed on her insecurities, on her failures. It wasn't just a monster, it was a reflection of the worst parts of herself. I choose love, she declared, each word growing stronger. Not fear. We are more than this. You don't own me. As if answering her declaration, the light they had summoned flickered wildly, brightening. In response, the darkness shrieked, a sound so terrible it made her skin crawl. You will pay. The specter pulled back, frustration obscuring its face, revealing a grotesque visage that twisted and writhed. Sarah pulled Lily closer. Look at me. Just like the fireflies, remember? She could see tears glistening in Lily's eyes, her little hands shaking. The darkness surged once more, but Sarah didn't waver. We're not afraid. We have our memories, our love. With every shout, flickers of light swelled around her, radiant motes illuminating the darkness. The fireflies returned, dancing through the desolation. Sarah held her hand out, letting the warmth pulse from her fingers, beads of light stretching toward Lily. Mommy, Lily whispered, slowly beginning to breathe more evenly, her fear melding into something else. I see them. Think of the treehouse, the laughter, the sunshine. We can do this together. As the light began to bloom, the specter snarled, shadowy arms flailing as it was driven back. It fell into the void as if it were nothing but smoke. But not for long. Flickers of coal-black shadow coalesced, forming claws reaching back for them. A swirling storm of darkness lurching to strike. Enough! Sarah roared, stepping forward, arm risen high. We are not your prey. You cannot keep us here. Light erupted from her fingers, a brilliant explosion scattering the encroaching darkness, defying the abyss. The shadows shrieked, spinning in chaos, unable to withstand the force of love ignited in their hearts. Suddenly, a crack echoed sharp and menacing. The ground trembled, and the path beneath them began to crack, threatening to split wide open. Hold on, Sarah shouted, gripping Lily's hand as tightly as possible. We have to keep moving. But as they ran, the darkness writhed, the shadow of her past still limping after them, whispering promises of despair. They barely took a step when the world around them shifted, the luminous path wavering, distorting. Mommy, it's not over, is it? Lily's voice was barely a whisper, wading through trepidation. No, Sarah cried, desperation clawing at her throat. We must find the way out. We will break through. But before they could reach the next glow of light, the shadows pulsated once more, stretching out, ready to consume them whole. Your choices have already sealed your fate. The air turned frigid, a cyclone of dread enveloping them. Can they truly escape the horrors that hunt them? Or will the weight of the past drag them back into the depths of despair? The ground cracked underfoot, groaning like a wounded creature. Sarah pulled Lily closer, her breath hitching as the shifting shadows clawed at their heels, deceitful tendrils of darkness threatening to drag them back into the abyss. Each pulse of shadow felt like a phantom hand brushing against her skin, sending icy shivers down her spine. Keep running, Sarah urged, pushing forward even as her heart thundered, matching the chaotic rhythm of the storm brewing behind them. Each step felt heavier as if the earth itself conspired to hold them down, while the whisper of the specter echoed like thunder in her mind. You can't outrun yourself, Lily stumbled, fear eclipsing hope. Mommy, I can't. Yes, you can, Sarah coaxed, her voice trembling but insistent. She locked eyes with her daughter, determination flaring in her chest. Listen to my voice. Just a bit further. We're almost there. They dashed toward a flickering glow in the distance, the reflection of a serene light that felt like a mirage in this hellish landscape. But with each heartbeat, the darkness grew bolder, sending shivers of dread through the air. The shadows writhed, closing in around them like a swarm of locusts, their whispers now louder. You are weak, you will succumb. No, Sarah shouted back defiantly. You have no power over us. In that moment, the ground shook violently. A fissure split the earth, jagged and yawning, dark like the void itself. Sarah's heart dropped as she stumbled to regain her footing, desperately holding onto Lily. "Mommy!" Lily screamed, her small body quaking. "Grab my hand." Sarah reached out. The distance between them felt insurmountable, but Lily lunged, fingers brushing against her mother's palm. Their connection ignited a surge of warmth, pushing back against the encroaching cold. But then, the shadows seized their chance, twisting and screeching as if enraged. The specter's piercing gaze fell on them, paralyzing Sarah with its fury. "You cannot leave. Your sins will always find you." "Those are not our sins," Sarah shouted, gathering strength. "They are what we're leaving behind." With a fierce push, she stepped back, lifting her chin defiantly to face the specter. "We will not be your puppets." The light resonated from her, bursting forth like a beacon. The shadows recoiled, shrieking violently as it struck them. For a moment the world felt still. "Mommy!" Lily's face lit up, reflections of bravery blooming within her eyes. "I can see it. I see the way out. Run." As they sprinted toward the light, the shadows clawed at the ground behind them, their scorching grip snapping away pieces of the earth, attempting to pull them back. Sarah's heart raced, screaming in her ears, the looming dread making each second feel like an eternity. They were almost there, almost safe. And yet, with each step, the fear pressed deeper, a freezing dagger in her side. Could they truly escape? The ground trembled beneath them again, throwing them off balance. Sarah stumbled, pulling Lily tightly to her side. "No!" The infernal darkness surged forward, dark whips curling around their ankles, ready to drag them down into despair. Then, a blinding brilliance shot through the dimness, a final flash erupting from their inner strength. It exploded outward, a kaleidoscope of memory and love ignited in the face of dread. Sarah pushed through, dragging Lily behind her as the world twisted and contorted, shadows dissipating, howls vibrating through the space. But just as she felt the light engulf them, a chilling whisper shot through the air, freezing her in place. "Your choices will always follow you." At that moment, everything shifted. The ground trembled violently, pulling away from beneath them again. "Are we safe, Mommy?" Lily's small voice cracked, wide eyes searching her mother's. "We'll find out, we just have to keep trying," Sarah replied, her heart thudding in her chest. But as they stood there, immobile and caught in the sudden stillness, a shadow rose from the depths behind them, dark and looming, heavier than before. What does it want? The question hung in the air like a death sentence. They couldn't afford to look away. Not now. Can they truly find refuge? Or will the hauntings of their past consume them whole? The air shimmered, charged with electric tension, as the shadow surged from the depths, darker than a midnight sky. Sarah's heart raced, and she instinctively pulled Lily closer, her resolve steeling against the gnawing fear. The shadow was different. It was the culmination of all their doubts, every hesitation that had ever plagued them. "Mommy, what is it?" Lily's voice broke through the chaos, pure terror echoing in her small quivering body. "It's okay, sweetie. We can face this together." Sarah forced her voice to remain calm, though her insides twisted like a tempest as the specter loomed closer. "Your pain, your failures," the shadow hissed, echoing her own doubts back at her. "You thought you could forget?" "No," Sarah shouted back, every ounce of love for her daughter igniting a fierce determination in her chest. "We are not our pain. We are more than our shadows." With each emphatic word, a flicker of light erupted from her next to Lily, pushing back against the all-consuming darkness. The warmth radiated, illuminating fragments of their memories: laughter by the lake, dance parties in their living room, the soft glow of fireflies that once chased the summer night. They were beacons of hope, striking through the void. "Follow the light," Sarah cried, gripping Lily's hand tightly. They charged forward, unwavering, with the light quickly engulfing them in a warm embrace. But the specter writhed and twisted, trying to ensnare them. "You are bound to your past," it shrieked, and shadows lashed out, wrapping around their ankles, pulling them back. The effort felt monumental, as if trying to climb a mountain with an avalanche barreling down. "Keep moving," Sarah urged, and they pushed ahead, the whispers intensifying, rising in a crescendo of despair that sought to grip their lungs with icy fingers. "You need us." "No," Sarah shouted, her voice breaking through the clamor. "We won't let you drown us." Her heart thundered as they barreled toward the flickering light. Each step felt like a battle, but with every heartbeat, they grew stronger. Memories became their armor. "Mommy!" Lilia's face lit up, tears glistening in her eyes as she pointed. "I can see them. The fireflies." "Yes, we can do this. Together," Sarah encouraged, the warmth spreading until it enveloped them completely, pushing aside the tendrils of anguish. With one final push, they broke free from the shadow's tightening grip and burst into the light. It felt like stepping out of a suffocating mist into a dawn that washed over them with golden brilliance. Yet, the shadow howled in fury, lashing out as they stood bathed in luminescence. "You can't escape," it roared, but its form began to distort and unravel under the power of their light. "Look, Lily," Sarah gasped, her heart pounding with hope. "We're free. It's fading." The shadow shrieked in rage as it dissolved into vapor, consumed by the illumination, a vanquished beast losing its hold over their lives. As its last remnants melted away into nothingness, an echo of laughter rang through the air, not twisted but joyous, releasing centuries of pain. Lily turned to Sarah, eyes sparkling. "We did it, Mommy. We're safe." A flood of relief washed over Sarah. She wrapped her child tightly in her arms, their hearts warming with a sense of victory. "Yes, baby, we did it. We faced our shadows together." As they stood, basking in the radiance of their triumph, the bond between them shimmered stronger than ever. The path around them now flourished, vibrant with life flowers blooming, bright colors splashing the darkness away, as if the sun had been coaxed back from hiding. They stepped forward, hand in hand, toward the horizon stretching out before them. It wasn't just a departure from the dark. It was a glorious embrace of what they had become. It was a promise they had triumphed over despair. And now they would create a new story together, illuminated by the strength and love they had forged in their battle. With every step, the past would remain a shadow behind, but it would no longer define them. They had chosen light, love, and hope, and as they melted into the morning sun, a whisper echoed in the wind, a promise that they would never be forgotten, forever carrying the legacy of love that transcended both darkness and despair. Don't let this story end here. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss a single exclusive adventure as we uncover thrilling tales that will blow your mind. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. Every click counts. And I want to hear from you. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about what just went down. Make sure you share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Come on. Don't wait even one more second to share the excitement. Your support means the world.